Is this in honor of me?
What? Oh, dude. Oh my God. I didn't even notice that, dude.
I don't know anybody who drinks Busch. It's not good. It's just that's not good.
You're wrong. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. You are listening to Game Club from Wannabe Critic Productions. I am one of your hosts, Gabriel Fast, and we are entering another Busch League chapter for the Supergiant Games saga. Today with me, Jacob? The rest of the Busch League crew couldn't show up for this weird game. I mean, what's going on? I have just one Jacob Busch with me today for this review. How you feeling?
I'm great. They have a hard time following through with things sometimes, They commit and then they say, hey, it's going to take another month. And we don't have another month here.
Yeah, I mean, we got to keep this thing rolling. You know what I mean? Like, this has been almost a year. Legitimately.
Yeah, I think you approached this in January of 2020.
Yeah, so, I mean, we recorded Bastion. We recorded Bastion, right, in 2020. So, yeah, I mean, it's been a while. But I am happy you're here. I am happy to be reviewing this game with you. Today we are reviewing Pyre from Supergiant Games. And boy, oh boy, do I have a lot to say about this game. I hope Jacob Busch does as well, because this is a crazy game. I mean, it's like I have never experienced anything in my life like this. Ever.
I agree. It's unique.
It is insane how unique this game is. But is it good? We're going to tackle that, right? We're going to tackle that. And obviously this is all subjective. But, Jacob plays a lot of games. I play a lot of games. And I think Jacob might be teasing a little something towards the end of the show as to the review process. So we'll have to wait for that. But before we get into that, though, Jacob, without revealing anything too topical, what's been up in your world? How have you been?
Been great, man. It's a new chapter for Busch League right now. We've kind of got some energy. We got some new direction. Not crazy new direction. It's still all games, but we're just all on the same page, and we're excited for where everything's going. We've had some really cool videos hit and do well. The Guardians of the Galaxy was a big milestone for us doing that. We've got some cool episodes coming up, which are probably out by the time this comes out. But it's just we've got energy behind Busch League right now. That's in summary what's going on.
So basically what you're saying is that Busch League Gaming is going to change to Busch League Media.
Not a chance.
Oh, okay.
Not a chance. Also, I think that acronym's already taken, so we can't really use that. Because I wanted to do Busch League Music at one point, and I was like,
yeah, BLM. Yeah, you can't really do that.
I was like, there's no stepping on that right now. That's
absolutely not. Not a chance.
I've considered Busch League listens, so don't take that. But no, I'm way too busy with Busch League gaming to do anything
Busch
other
League
thing.
Listens. Yeah. No, I feel it is kind of crazy how these projects just kind of take over our lives, and it's very easy to see. Like with Wannabe stuff, it's very easy to see which stuff gets the most attention from me as a creator. And that, I'm talking about whatever project, I'm just talking about that one the most. Like my favorite ones to talk about is Punch Counterpunch and Game Club, what we're talking about today. And it's not like I dislike doing the other stuff. I'm just more passionate about this other, about the ones that receive the most attention from me. And, like I think about like the music channel. I say it's mine. I'm the only one that does it. My music channel is I'm not going to I don't want to this is kind of like a humble brag a little bit. It's kind of popping off.
I think it is, Gabe. I've seen some of these numbers. They're crazy.
And I never realized, that's that's all organic. And it's crazy to me that was even a possibility ever. But the crazier thing is that I barely put any time or effort into it. It takes me an hour. It takes me an hour to record a few different reactions, edit those reactions, and schedule those reactions.
Just remember that right there when you work super hard on something and it just doesn't hit like you expect. Now remember that, because what that tells you is that the system just does a thing. I'm not gonna say it's broken, but
the
algorithm. Yeah, it might be.
It
I haven't
is.
analyzed it
It
enough.
has
But
to
all
be.
I know is that don't let it get to you, because the easy stuff, that takes off sometimes. The stuff you work really hard on and you're passionate about and you love it, couple views, whatever it is, whatever you want to call it. But just do it for the right reasons and it doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And that's kind of what, I put out a blog post a couple months ago about this exact same thing we're talking about, where it's like, and shout out to Shared Screens. I love those guys. Like they
I
put
know
out
those guys.
they put out a video, formerly of Waypoint, and they put out a video where they were saying like, we want to create content we're passionate about regardless of the view count. And that right there was one of those things where it was like, you said everything in 5 words, that needed to be said, because we base our value off of the view count sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And when it comes down to it, it's just really not that big of a deal unless you're like already established. Like if you're already established, yeah, you should worry about it. But if you're
I don't know,
making
man.
stuff-
I don't know. If you can, you should shoot to make it. It just shouldn't matter to you.
Yeah.
You should make the content you want to make. Anything that's like leaning creative, don't do it for the money or the views. Do it for the true passion behind it.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, all I meant by that was saying, like, if your livelihood is dependent on the content you make, that's a different story. But like, whenever you're not, like whenever you're kind of in a position like a lot of us smaller creators are, it's exactly what you're saying rings true for me. Where it's like, yeah, like if you're not a superstar, you might as well make the content you want to make anyways, because you never know. You never know. But
Shared Screen though, good shout out. Good crew.
yeah, I love those guys. I love them. So continue to do your stuff, Shared Screens. But Jacob, I don't think we've had much one-on-one. You and I don't think
Other than our phone calls. I mean,
other
those
than
are
our
things.
phone calls and texts. So why don't you tell a little bit of tell the people a little bit about what Busch League is about, and kind of go into that a little bit more, just in case they don't know the story.
Yeah, Busch League Gaming. We produce weekly podcast and sometimes other content, but really just bank on the podcast. That's where we're committed to a weekly podcast. It can range from a review, a deep dive into a single game, very similar to this Game Club. But we also have started doing news lately, which we are absolutely loving. It's really kind of released the pressure of playing a game every week or close to a game every week. And we can just talk about the industry and we can talk about what we see. And so news has been, I mean, we were talking about maybe doing 1 to 2 news episodes a week, and we're pretty much hitting 2 to 3 a week right now. And that's going to persist. And then we also do just random, we call it evergreen content, where it's just like these deep dives into a specific topic, into the video game industry. One somewhat recent one was dark design and UX. So we had 2 big psychologists on. I mean, they're both amazing.
Great episode.
They're fantastic.
Loved that episode.
Yeah. Dr. Coert and Dr. Celia Hodent both produce content themselves. Dr. Hodent worked for Ubisoft and LucasArts. And we just interview them about, what's the shady practices within UX design. So we try to find topics that are just kind of underneath the radar of average gamers and bring them to the surface and highlight those and dive deep into that. So we're kind of all over the place. If you like gaming, just come check us out.
It's one of those things where I fell into a podcast rut. I was a kind of funny listener for years, like several years, and it just got to a point where their content changed, and that's fine. And my taste in podcasts changed, and that's fine too. Obviously, no like digs on kind of funny. Like shouts to them for continuing to make what they want to happen. That's great. But it just got to a point to where I just want to hear from my acquaintances and like the stuff that they're creating, the stuff that they're making, because we're all hungry for not necessarily we're hungry for creating content that we're passionate about, and to me that is success in a large factor. Obviously, Me and Jake were talking a little bit off screen or off mic, but I may be pursuing it as a career, and that's fine. Jacob is not. And the middle ground is creating content you're passionate about. And whenever I find that, not only in an acquaintance, but like make friends with people in this space and have them on Zoom and whatever, like obviously you guys live in Phoenix and it's hard to have that like one-on-one type of connection. I still feel like we connect, which is kind of crazy to speak to the power of video games even, but I absolutely look forward to seeing your guys' episodes every week, because that is like a main rotation for me.
Yeah.
And like, to me, that content is every bit as good as people who have been in the professional space creating it for years. And it just speaks to me that way. And I think that those are the types of projects that we should continue like searching and finding, that we're like, yeah, like I love the dynamic and I love the chemistry and I feel like I'm there.
Yeah.
And
same to you, Gabe. Punch Counter Punch. I tell you this all the time. It's one of my favorite shows. I look forward to it it's not every week, right? It's about every 2 weeks. It's random.
like, well, I mean, it's like once a month. Like that's all. That's all my co-hosts can commit to, and that right now. And
more.
Eventually, we may bring it up to, we may make more, but I think having that month buffer really allows us to be excited for it, and the content, like it does well, and it's able, we're able to create a lot of stuff around that. That's where a lot of TikTok content is coming from, and YouTube Shorts and stuff. And
is that where you guys dance? You guys are dancing on those ones?
Dancing? Oh, on
TikTok.
the TikToks?
Yeah,
oh.
On the TikToks?
Yeah, I mean,
I would pay good money to see you and Ethan Maestri dancing on a TikTok. I would, it's actually probably scary how much money I would pay to see something like that.
I mean, how much are we talking? Because I love money, so...
What's your price, Gabe? Tell me what your dance.
You know what?
Me
and Ethan Maestri, and I'm sorry, Ethan, I'm speaking for you. We will dance for $200.
$200?
$200.
I'll approach the other Busch League guys and we'll see what we can do.
Oh my God.
I'm starting a GoFundMe for this.
I hope Ethan hears this and is like, Gabe, what have you done? You know what I mean? So
did you say, hold on, is that fully clothed? Is that what you're saying? $200?
$200 fully clothed. That's all you get.
All right.
Don't push it.
I'll run it over with the guys.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Thank you so much for kind of telling us a little bit what you're about and, indulging me in my whimsical banter. But we're here to talk about a video game. And I dropped something. I need to grab it really fast. Give me a second. Can you vamp just for a sec for me?
Yeah, so we're here to talk about the greatest film ever made. Rush Hour 2, 1999's Rush Hour 2, starring Jackie Chan and Chris Tucker.
Wow, you really went there. Okay, Rush Hour 2.
Yeah, 2 specifically.
I mean,
yeah, it's
number one's
3 and 1.
No, I think number 1 might be underrated.
Hold on. I'm not saying it's a bad film. I'm saying 2 is the best. 1's great. 3's questionable. 2, that is prime late 90s, early 2000s.
Okay, we might have to do. I completely forgot about the Rush Hour movies. That's a really good point. We might have to do those on Keeping It Real.
Just watch Shang-Chi, and there's a pure homage to Rush Hour 2 in that film.
Is Jackie Chan in it?
Jackie Chan's not in it, but there's a scene that Jackie Chan pretty much identically does. And I looked it up later because I was like, there's no way they're not just ripping off or homage. Homage, and it's amazing. Rush Hour 2, great film.
Okay, well done. Thanks for the wrap up there.
Vamp. That's what you get when you
that was great. That was fine. I mean, I'm putting you in a situation that you don't find yourself in that often because you take the lead over at Busch League Gaming. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, what happened was...
I don't drop things on the ground.
Well, yeah, what happened, I dropped my copper ring, and I was going to feel naked without it on during the show, so that's why I had to grab it. I'm weird. Little tiny stuff can throw me off. All right. That's enough of that. No one cares. Ladies and gentlemen, we're here to review Pyre from Supergiant Games. For those of you who don't know, Pyre was released... I'm pulling up the facts here really fast. Yeah, so Pyre was released in 2017.
Hey, quick thing. Rush Hour 2, 2001. Sorry for the audience out there. I said 1999, 2001.
2001. Okay? There you have it.
Proceed.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate you.
That was worth interrupting,
fact checking.
Right?
That was great. That was great. Pyre is a 2017 action role-playing video game developed and published by Supergiant Games. It was released in July 2017 for Microsoft Windows, Linux, and PS4, and then August 2017 for Mac OS. Elements from sports games were incorporated to the title's gameplay. It was the third game developed by a Supergiant following Transistor, which was in 2014, and it received generally positive reviews upon release. The game takes place in a high fantasy setting. The story is told through on-screen narrative passages that include a hyperlink type system used by the player/character to explore the story further. In addition to guiding the exiles during rites, which resemble a sports game, the reader must determine how to help, support, or improve the party by performing activities such as scavenging for supplies, learning more of the world's lore, or mentoring the exiles to improve their abilities. This game is deep, and I mean deep. This is by and far, I mean, I remember seeing trailers for this. I mean, you know me, like, I love Supergiant. Like, I mostly love Bastion. I'm a huge Bastion stan, right? And when we started this project, I was like, well, we should review all of the Supergiant games. You know, that makes sense. Let's do that. And I had dabbled in all of them, but I hadn't played. I mean, Pyre was the one that I had spent the least amount of time in. I remember seeing trailers for this and being like super duper excited, but just being like, what is this? You know, what am I looking at here? I have to ask, what were kind of your first impressions whenever you started this game?
First impressions would be Quidditch meets Oregon Trail. And I stand by that throughout the whole game.
That's literally what it is. That's a nice Harry Potter reference right there. Yeah, it is literally Quidditch meets. It is more Oregon Trail than Quidditch, but the gameplay aspect is Quidditch. I mean, it is. I remember watching the No Clip documentary, and
I had to watch that before this.
Dude, holy crap!
I forgot about that.
I'm not gonna lie to you, and we might as well just start this out by saying like how we feel about the game in general. I struggle with this game.
Mm-hmm.
I do. But I also really admire and love this game because of its ambition. And it's not like the ambition is not well executed. It's just so weird. That is the issue for me. But from an artist standpoint, I'm like, how did you even accomplish this? How did you even do this? Like from a musician / I dabble in writing. Obviously, I'm a content creator. From all of those aspects, you look at the execution in this game and you're like, how is this even possible? I think this game has like thousands of different endings based on your decision making. I remember watching the No Clip documentary and thinking to myself, how did you do this? But there are so many things that hold this game back from like, it's like whenever you like are trying to nerd out about something and then someone stops you and they're like, oh, talk to me in terms that I can like understand, is literally this game's execution. It's not surface level. You have to dig. So I have to ask, like, did you feel any of that? I mean, what kind of were your thoughts? Like, let's fast forward 2 hours into the game. What are you thinking?
2 hours into the game, I thought I was almost done.
Same.
Because honestly, it does take you on a roller coaster of when does this actually end and how long can you actually pull this off, the specific play type. My emotions on this game are mixed. It's kind of what you just described at the top of the show as far as creative outlets and why you do it and the art of it. This is Supergiant doing what they want to do. And doing what they want to do to the point of they probably know that this isn't going to be popular. I don't know what the sales are on this game. I can't imagine it compares to some of their other games. Because it is so abstract to think that this Quidditch-like playstyle is complemented by Oregon Trail-like playstyle, where you're reading a ton and selecting choices. All that being said, I appreciate the game. I really like the Quidditch-like segments. It is the narrative moments are written well, but I have to be in a very, very specific mood to play a game like that, and it comes very infrequently. Like I don't choose to read a lot in games, and this is that game, right? There is a ton of dialogue in this game. There's little to no voice acting, and
well, no. There's a lot of voice acting. Okay, it's just in a made-up language.
Yeah, my point being is I have to read a lot, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Cool, great voice acting. It's the same voice actor, or some of the same voice actors throughout their previous Supergiant games. My point being is that it's a dialogue fest, right? I don't know how many books I read reading this, but there's a lot here. And I don't know. I respect this game. I don't know if it's something I'll come back to, but I really respect this game, and I respect Supergiant for the effort and the art that is demonstrated through this.
So yeah, I want to put a pin in that. I want to read a quote from Greg Kasavin. Okay, he says, and this is from a while back. This is from a Hollywood Reporter article. Because at this point in time, Transistor and Bastion have made Supergiant rock stars in the indie gaming space and the gaming space in general. And it's a thing of they probably could have evolved their studio as much as they wanted, but they wanted to stay small and keep their team and continue to create games that they genuinely feel passionate about and that they want to make. Greg Kasavin says, "It's been a really exciting time for us. Considering it is a big departure from our previous games, I think the general consensus is that the soul from our previous games is still very much intact. We don't try to make something for everyone. I think our games are very specific. While Supergiant is an indie game publisher, not one of the industry giants like Activision or Ubisoft, its games found an audience of avid gamers who are looking for fresh material that doesn't easily fall under categories such as first-person shooter or Madden. I think it can be quite risky to propose a new type of gameplay and combine genres of games that aren't commonly combined because you risk players feeling left out in the cold. Our entire audience consists of players willing to take a chance on stuff." You're literally basing your game's success and the future of your company's success, but potentially off of a chance. That
Off
sounds
of
like
fans.
Yeah, off of your fans. That sounds like one thing to me. And I have a very bold statement.
Ooh.
Supergiant Games is the quintessential artist in video games. And that they make games and they don't care if you don't like them because they know they will be successful based off of their fans' reception.
Yeah.
We talk about artists being starving and like stuff like that. And eventually maybe they catch a break or whatever, but maybe they don't.
Hades has to be a break. I'm sorry. There's no way that Hades doesn't change everything for them.
For sure. But that's I'm talking think of right, like put yourself in 2017 putting out Pyre in that climate.
Yeah. Yeah.
Completely different. To me, I mean, I even think about something like Bastion, right? Bastion, and I'm even Transistor. We had mixed feelings on Transistor, where there are elements of that game that felt redundant. There were elements of Bastion that felt redundant. There are elements of this game where I'm like, oh my God, let's just get to the freaking end of this thing. You know what I mean? Go ahead. You look like you want to say something.
No, you're right. I mean, they really did what they wanted to do. And with that quote, what I hear from that is they lean on their fans. They know they have a strong base, and they're making their games for that base and themselves. I am now part of that base. I 100%. I mean, you approached me about this project. I had only played Hades, loved Hades, played Bastion, played Transistor, played Pyre. I am 100% a Supergiant fan now.
You even ordered the vinyl off of my recommendation, the limited edition.
I ordered the vinyl. And
yeah,
guess
which
what?
we
Darren Korb's signing that thing. That's amazing.
He is,
That's
dude.
Absolutely amazing.
That made me weep whenever I found out that was going to happen because you know how much I admire Darren Korb. So
well, just wait till you get your copy and it's the one that he like missed by chance.
Right.
That's
I have to reach out to him. I have to reach out to him and make him come on another podcast.
My point here, though, is that they know that they speak to a specific audience. And they know that audience is going to be there to show up for the next game, no matter what it is. You know, whether it's a Quidditch, whatever game, or if it's something like Bastion, like Hades kind of has some of that DNA, they're going to show up and play those games. That's me. Supergiant from here on out, even if they have a couple slip-ups, I'm buying that game day one because I believe in this company now. And that's
Same.
what, I mean, that's a sign of what this was in is it 2017 you said?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, they were that confident back then. So I understand what this game is. It's not for everybody. It's not really even that much for me, but it does reinforce my love for Supergiant and their storytelling.
Same. And I wanted to kind of take a second to talk about what the Story of Pyre even is, right? What is the basis? So essentially, in a nutshell, you have all of it's high fantasy. Okay, so you have all these different species, and it's implied maybe people from different dimensions and things like that coming to this purgatory-esque place, and you're essentially competing for your chance to leave that purgatory-esque space. That's it. That is literally the story in a nutshell. But within that, you have all these different arenas and all these different places to go explore and like find out lore and do all this other stuff. And I mean, when we say it's Oregon Trail, it is. You're literally in a wagon. I mean, you're in a wagon. I remember watching the No Clip documentary. Shout out to No Clip. God, I would love to work for No Clip one day. I'm not even gonna lie to you.
Right.
Shout out to No Clip because Logan Cunningham verbatim said, "What would you say that Pyre is?" And he said, "It is Oregon Trail meets NBA Jam."
Okay, cool. I wasn't too far off from that.
And that's literally what it is.
Yeah.
So, obviously, the way you progress the story is you are trying to gain the favor of the scribes by performing rites in which you try and extinguish the opposing person's pyre. And it's interesting watching that documentary and hearing Greg Kasabin talk about how sports kind of in a way resembles a ritual-esque type of performance, right? You are participating in something where people are not worshiping you, but they are giving you attention and special attention, right, for this thing you are doing. So, for every rite, which there are 26 in total, you basically get dialogue from the narrator, and he talks about your journey and things continue on, and you're essentially you're accumulating all these different teammates, and you eventually get to try and free them from this place. And once you've spent time with them and you have an opportunity to free them, once you free them, they are gone for the rest of the game. Mm-hmm. And I just think that's so crazy. Like, there are people...
Did you understand that up front when you were playing? Did you know that's what was at stake?
Once you get to the first liberation rite and you realize this person's gone, because they don't tell you anything about being free, at the beginning of the game. The first half of the game is literally just exploring each area, kind of accumulating your initial team, and then going from there. And your team changes. Things happen. Your team has beefs with other people. My teammates were probably much different than Jacob's teammates. It's all based off of decision making. I think Supergiant touts something like there's 20,000 different endings for this game or something like that.
Wait, hold up. So the people who joined my team weren't always going to be the people that joined my team?
No.
I didn't know that.
So yeah, I'm looking up.
There was a sign of that because I played some of the because when there's a campaign story mode and then there's just playing the rights, and I did some of the rights and it's I can select all the people I used to play against, and I didn't have those people. I didn't play with those during the campaign, so that would make sense if those individuals could be on your team. I didn't realize the choice was that significant.
So. The game is simple in design and execution, I would say, and just overall design, in that you want to get from point A to point B. And, well, that probably isn't the best way to put it. It's not like you can explore and, do a bunch of exploration, but you can take in a lot of knowledge, based off of each checkpoint you stop at. And then once you realize kind of the general flow of the game and how the rites are performed and all that stuff, once you perform your first liberation rite, which is basically what we were talking about before, whenever your teammates leave permanently, then you kind of realize, okay, now it's just a race to try and get these liberation rites done as soon as possible. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely, yeah. There's some urgency because they also are alluding to the fact that there are so many rights left too. It's counting down, and not everyone's going to make it out of this limbo. So there's some urgency pretty early on in the game. Yeah,
I would agree with that. Let's talk about the rights themselves. What's your take on those?
Love them. Best part of the game. By far my favorite part of the game. So the rights are the Quidditch-like NBA Jam parts of the game. It's 3 versus 3. Each character has somewhat unique abilities and unique play styles. And yeah, that's where the game shines for me. It's very unique to create a new sport in general. And this one clicked and I understood it and I wanted to play more of it. I just think I could have used more of it. But like that's my critique of this game mainly, is that I wanted to do more rights and less Oregon Trail, if that makes sense.
Did you feel like you were mismatched or like your matchups weren't fair ever?
No, I crushed it, Gabe. I crushed it every time. Gabe, I was actually had a question for you. I'm curious since you asked this question. What was your record by the end? Were you? I mean, it told you your record as you were playing. I want to know what your record was.
So,
Let's hear this.
full disclosure,
Yeah,
ladies and
let's hear
gentlemen. I had the ending of how this game spoiled, how this game ends spoiled for me within the No Clip documentary.
Oh,
So I know the basic gist of how it ends. By recording now, I have not finished the game currently. I will put a soliloquy of my final thoughts of my personal journey. I will insert this at the end of this review. But we just kind of ran out of time, and I basically have 2 rights left to complete. As of that, I think I've performed 24 out of 26 rights. I am 22-2. So I've lost
22
twice.
and 2. Okay.
I've
So,
lost 1 liberation right, and I've lost 1 regular right.
I'm 23 and 3 by the end.
Okay. That's not bad.
Well, you asked that question like, didn't you have a really hard time? Wasn't this unfairly matched? And I'd say 23 and 3, pretty good. If I'm banking on a coach, 23 and 3 is pretty good.
That's not bad.
That's almost undefeated.
Here's the thing. To win, the game almost forces you to use characters you don't want to use. And that's something the
100%.
developers have even touched on, is like, look, winning at all cost isn't necessarily always the right way to go about things. Like, for instance, there's an opportunity to play in front of a bunch of imps, like what Tizu is. And basically playing in front of that audience, if you basically let the other team win, they get entertainment out of that. Whereas they have a pretty crappy life otherwise. So you have the opportunity to give them a good show and let their home team win. Or you can just crush it and completely wipe the floor with the other team and have them have nothing.
What'd you do, Gabe?
I destroyed them. I crushed it.
Did you ever throw a right?
I've never thrown, but there were genuinely times where I was outmatched. I'm like, I could restart this, but even trying to restart a right, the game warns you. It's like, look, you need to just see this through. Win or lose, you should see this through.
Yeah.
And I've never had a game say that to me ever, a sports game. And there were times where I wanted to restart it, but I didn't. And I was like, you know what? I should have, first of all, been paying attention to who I was fighting, because I fought these guys before. Second of all, I should have chose better. Mm-hmm. And that's one of my critiques, is there were some characters and some character archetypes that just are borderline not fun to use because they're slow or whatever. My favorite one to use is Rookie. I had him maxed out first, just zipping around the playing field.
Good. He's
Loved
a dog,
it.
basically, right?
Yeah, he's a dog, and he's just doing his thing. Ray also loved using her. My go-to was because I let Joe Dario go first.
Oh wow!
In the first liberation, I let her go first. So my tank.
I let Headwind.
You let Hidwin go. Okay, yeah.
Yep.
So I let Jodario go because she's the captain of the squad, right? I was like, look, you've let us here this far. You can go. And in a way, after each liberation, right, for me, it's I almost feel bad knowing that Rookie's probably going to be left behind. Because I like using using him the best.
Oh.
But then you fall into this moral dilemma, if you've gotten super into the characters and you're enjoying the rights, it's God, Rookie's the one that's gotten us these games every single time, these wins. And he deserves to go, but I cannot part with him as the reader. That's the part you play. Reading is kind of forbidden. That's why they're relying on you to kind of navigate the stars, right? You're it's heavily based off of astronomy and things like that, and they're looking, fictional astronomy, of course, but they're looking to you to navigate the stars and do all this different stuff because they rely on you, and you're making the decisions as to who is going to play. So for me, selfishly, I'm no, I'm not letting Rookie or Ray go and I risk leaving them behind in this bad place, this place of unease and uncertainty, for my own selfish desires and my own selfish gains. I mean, did you feel that at all? Like, that resonate with you at all? Like,
it's cool. It's cool hearing you talk like that because I play differently. Now, I never threw a match for any reason, and there's some other reasons that pop up that are a little more persuasive than just entertainment. Like, there's this drama between sisters.
Panther and Tamitha. Yeah.
Yeah.
The lovers, right? Hedwyn and Sandra, is that what it was?
Hedwyn was gone so early, I don't even know if I picked up on that. But I will say that I didn't throw them because I felt like I had a commitment to my team, and I was never going to throw a match that risked them being liberated. That being said, I did liberate who I felt morally deserved it the most. And I say morally because some characters are here almost by choice or by antagonizing.
Like Bertrude?
Bertrude, even Pamitha's like that. Pamitha's like just trying to mess with her sister a bunch. Those are two that I left behind in the end. But order of operation, if you had someone like a loved one waiting on you on the other side, you are at the top of the list. Hedwyn, Ruki, a couple more. Those were the top of the list for me. I wasn't selecting Liberation based on who I wanted to stick around or who I wanted to leave. I wanted those who deserved it by my, judgment to go first in case that the rights ended early somehow, which they kind of do.
Right, because the stars start fading. Like,
they start fading. And
they start being like, you kind of have to pick and choose, like, these side stories, these side characters, side plots, whatever you want to call them. Like, you kind of have to pick and choose who you want to focus on. Like,
yep.
Yeah.
So I did the opposite of you. I didn't want my A team to stick around. I wanted who I felt deserved it the most to go up. So by the end of the game, I was playing with characters that really weren't my play style. That's what happened. And you know what? 23-3, I'd say I was still kicking it, man.
Well, yeah, I mean, the game kind of forces you to. It's like there are some characters based on the masks, because the whole purpose is getting all these different races to essentially represent one of the scribes' masks, and like you need basically I don't want to say a sacrifice or a tribute, but you need basically one person to represent that. So only certain masks attribute to specific character archetypes. Because for instance, like the dog, like there's the dogs, like the worms, the like the humans, the there's like
the harpies.
Yeah, the harps. Like there's
slug.
All these different, the slug. There's all these different like types of archetypes that you come across that you're gonna have to go up against, and each one of those, there's only certain ones of those that attribute to that. So even if you wanted to send, like Bertrude on her way as early as possible, you can't. Like you kind of have to wait for that opportunity to like pop up to like send her away. I actually sent Bertrude away because I thought maybe she would realize, because she's almost kind of like dogging like the other side, right? Like she's almost kind of like saying like, no, like I want to be here.
She likes it.
But I kind of wanted to like force her to go and like see what it was like, and who knows? I mean, I'm kind of a devil's advocate in a way of like, I don't really believe in like having your cake and eating it too. So I almost forced myself to make decisions that seem difficult. And by the end of this, I know either Ray or Ruki is getting left behind to stay with, or not Voltron, but the
Volfred, Sandalwood.
Yeah. Like that guy's definitely staying behind. Sorry. Like for me,
the mastermind.
He has to, because if this is cyclical in any way, he has to stay behind.
For the
next like batch of people to come through.
That's cool.
Yeah, so I mean that was just something I just determined early on. It's like, oh, you're the leader. Yeah, you get to stay then. Like you get to stay with the sinking ship for sure. That was like something I had. Did I freeze?
No, you're good.
Oh, you're frozen.
You're good.
Okay.
Oh, maybe. Yeah, you are frozen, but I can still hear you.
Okay, hopefully we don't lose connection. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, I can still hear you.
Okay.
You're frozen in a hilarious frame, though.
Okay. I don't know. That was just like my initial instinct. Whenever I have a gut feeling on something that revolves around choice, if there's something that's like gut feeling for me, then I'm like, this seems like what I should do. I do it every time.
Mm.
And I think the moral dilemma questions, like those hard choices to make, are inherently more interesting. But anytime I feel like I should go with something, I go with it, even if I think it's the wrong call. Like, even if it ends up being the wrong call, I stick with it.
That's video game logic, though. Video game logic is this looks like the right thing, and then when you choose that, it's the wrong choice, and you have something much harder to overcome. So you're
Exactly.
you're kind of preserving yourself in that sense by having that innate response to the right choice. If you go the opposite way, you're usually doing the right thing in video game language.
Yeah, exactly. Especially, I mean, if Mass Effect's taught me anything, it's that. It's like,
Yep.
this is the choice I really want to make, but I really need to examine why I feel X, Y, and Z, and that's usually what I end up doing. So for me, Volfred, he's wanting to lead like this revolution within the downside, is like kind of what this purgatory is called. And he'll prevail. Like, he will. He probably will prevail based on the facts that kind of, these stars are fading, these rights are kind of coming to an end. And hopefully they will be able to find peace in whatever they're doing. And that's one thing. I read a comment or a quote from the developers, and they're saying, like, look, this isn't a good ending, bad ending type of story. This is a coming to find solace and peace wherever you're at in your life, and then coming from a negative space or a negative place, whether it be emotionally, mentally, spiritually, whatever, and then ascending to something that's better. And I appreciated them talking about how for some characters that actually might be remaining within the Commonwealth, or within the downside, and like just figuring out how to make it within the downside.
Yeah.
For other people, it is ascending to that higher plane and like doing better. And I thought that was like kind of a really beautiful way of looking at it, is like, no matter what walk of life you have, we all kind of have, peaks and valleys in our lives, and it's always looking to that next peak,
Dude,
that you can get to.
This is a Supergiant theme. I really think this is a Supergiant theme. If you think back to Bastion and our conversation, Gabe, like, it's that big crux of that end is choosing to accept this cataclysm of a life, of a world, or going back and kind of restarting anew and forgetting things. So Supergiant very much dances around this idea of experiencing things, though they're perceived as negative, you can experience them fully by embracing it, right? They're all about embracing this kind of...
Well, yeah, I mean, you're exactly... Yeah, I mean, like, think even about Transistor, right? I mean, Red kills herself at the end of that game.
Yeah.
She literally kills herself to be with the person that she loves, because that's the only way. And literally the entire time, the guy is like encouraging her to like keep living, keep doing stuff. But she has the option, and no matter what walk of life you come from, very rarely do you believe that you ever get that shot to actually be with that loved one. In whatever facet of life or whatever, it's like, this is the only way, and she has the opportunity. She chooses that. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
In this game, yeah, I mean, it comes down to, it is a very hard decision in some aspects of, I found myself really weighing the options, like, who am I going to let go? Like, and I found it boiling down to a simple fact of, well, who do I like playing as the most?
Interesting.
Who am I going to let go? Mechanically,
Yeah.
and it is interesting to talk about. It's like, well, how easy is it going to be for me to win with these characters that I have left? Whenever the game will progress, if you lose, you will progress.
More difficult. It gets, from experience, if you choose based off story beats, the game gets more difficult for you, because you're going to start sacrificing some of your best players, and you really have to get creative. And I like that, actually. Like, Supergiant, there's a design strategy there to force you into trying things that you might not usually try. This is present in Hades later down the line, where you're just getting these random rolls or whatever it is through these different stages. Supergiant's progression through game design is so apparent through every single one, though they don't seem like it. I see so much of Hades in Pyre. Like, the art style of characters popping up and communicating, like this beautiful artistic design of these caricatures, and the dialogue, that's Hades, right? They pulled that straight from Pyre.
Totally.
The music, always the music, so there's a through line. So I just think there's so many elements here that I appreciated, again, as a Supergiant fan, but kind of bringing it back to the story aspect, the story even has that through line, that Supergiant DNA too. And man, it's, again, Pyre's not for everybody. Pyre's maybe not even for me from a technical perspective. I definitely had like bored moments, you know, but I can appreciate the art and the storytelling and the work that went into this. And they just know their audience, and they know that they're going to have people backing them pretty much through anything.
Well, and also too, like, whenever you realize the process of the liberation rights, floating between the different star, areas, like, and having to fly to those areas each time, it's like, can I not just fast travel to this freaking star? And like do that, it just became kind of redundant in my opinion. It's like, let's just move, like, let's go. Like, you're just adding time onto this game and adding artificial playtime in here.
Can I ask you a question, Gabe?
Go ahead.
Did you read all the dialogue?
Absolutely not. Did you?
Almost, but no.
Once I got to the liberation rights, I would kind of like skim through the gist of what was happening. But I was like, this is unnecessary. This, again, redundant. Like, this is tired now. Like,
so, and this is something I struggle with sometimes as when I review games, is I think the least we can do is experience the full game that the developers intended. And I don't know if that was necessary with some of this. Now, dialogue beats I missed, I'm sure, but I really didn't skip much. There was certain conversations that I could see where they were going, and I was like, this is just a tiny little side thing. It's not going to affect the big picture. And I'll
like
maybe
stopping to explore. Like, stopping to explore and do stuff, I'm like, I don't care. Like, let's just go. Next
usually
strike,
nothing comes from that. Yeah, exactly. But I do think that this game has dialogue to a negative point. There's too much. There's too much reading. There's too much space between the action. And that's a problem when it comes to engagement and comes to like wanting to pick it up again. Where if I wasn't reviewing this game, this would have been maybe a bit of a longer process. Maybe not always maybe not finishing it if I knew how long it actually was. So as much as I praise it for everything that I already mentioned, the big critiques I have are kind of centered around the dialogue and sometimes how, I don't want to say pointless, but how much it didn't make me want to stick around to read the next
It's just kind of
section.
Fluffy. Like, it just reminds me
Very
of this,
fluffy.
it's just very fluffy. And I get it. They're trying to add opportunities for music. They're trying to add opportunities to show off the talent of their developer team. And again, this is something I genuinely believe that they genuinely wanted to do. They've gone on record saying this is the most work we've ever put into a game. I have no doubt about that. But yeah, I mean, there's just moments where I'm like, oh my God, like I just had a banger of a right just then. Let's get to the next one. Like, I just smoked these guys. Next right, let's go. No, you can't. You got to go through 3 or 4 cut scenes of dialogue. It's like, dude, now I don't feel as prepared. Like, and now I'm like kind of in reading mode. So it's just kind of this ebb and flow of like weirdness. It's a super duper weird game. Like, it's just so weird.
This game, it should be on the Switch, in my opinion. I think this is a perfect Switch game because
it definitely plays like a mobile game too. I'm thinking to myself, like, this is literally built like a mobile game.
It does, and I'm wondering if there's some exclusivity things going on with this because it's 2017. How has it not come out on these other systems? Regardless, I ended up playing it via PlayStation Remote Play on my phone because I wanted it on my Switch. And it played really well there, and that's where I would read the dialogue, right? It's, I don't know. It's like there's really good storytelling here. It's just, the pacing's not right, in my opinion. That's my biggest critique with this game. The pacing is a bit off, and I don't want to say it's disappointing because I still enjoyed my time with it. But I just, again, for Supergiant, I really think they realize that maybe by Hades, and it's very lean when you get to Hades. There's storytelling, it's really good storytelling, but it's lean. You're in the action more than you're sitting here reading.
Yeah, no, I that's one thing that Supergiant's really good at, is just kind of building off the systems that are existing already within their games, and they talk about that in the documentaries as well. Because NoClip's done a documentary on every single one of their games, and you can see elements of the gear system within the attribute system of leveling up your characters here. So like the gear system in Bastion, when you want to like pick and choose what you have to level up, that's within these characters. Like it's the exact same system. You can see the dialogue system from Pyre got transferred over to Hades. Like that's existing. Same thing like with the level up system there as well with certain weapons and stuff like that. Like you can't really, I mean, you can have it all if you play enough, but you got to kind of pick and choose as you go along.
Difficulty modifier. That is in every single Supergiant game. That is present here too. You can increase the difficulty, get more experience or other things. And it's just cool to see, again, that through line of their language they speak to their fans.
Yeah, and just the detail. You know, there's a lot of detail within these games, and I have it on record here from I believe it was Greg Kasabin. He says, "Hey, we have no plans to bring Pyre to Switch, or frankly any plans right now past this version 1 launch of Hades, because we gave that everything we've got. We really do appreciate the interest. It's one of those things where if it weren't extraordinarily difficult for our team, we probably would have done it already. We're fortunate to have our own tech and tools which are tailored to the individuals on our team and help us make games with a distinct feel. But one of the downsides is that porting that tech to other platforms is not as easy as we'd like. With Hades, we suspected from the start that we want to bring the game to the Switch and planned for it early and made tons of technical changes to make it possible. Whereas most of Pyre's development occurred before the Nintendo Switch was announced, so we had no way of accounting for its hardware. This isn't meant as a bunch of excuses, as I know it can sound that way, just to provide some context." So,
what year was that?
This came out in 2020.
That's odd because Transistor and Bastion also didn't come out before the Switch was announced, and those are on the Switch.
Yeah, but those are objectively different types of games. I mean, they're talking about... It's not... obviously, I'm not a developer. I'm not a coder. But let's take a couple things here. Bastion and Transistor were already ported to a handheld beforehand. And accounting for that's hardware. So PS Vita, it was already on Vita.
iPhone also, Bastion. Remember,
and
Nick played
iPhone.
Bastion on
right.
the iPhone.
iPhone and iPad. So they already had experience doing that.
Sure.
I don't know if Pyre is on iPad. Is it? Do you know?
I don't believe that. It's only on Mac OS.
So I don't know the processes. I mean, this is by and far a much, 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 much more detailed game than Bastion or Transistor. Like 20,000 different endings overall. I mean,
I don't know. I don't know, man. I would be shocked if it didn't come out eventually. If there wasn't an exclusivity deal somewhere in there, why is it on Xbox then? Why isn't it on Xbox if it can run on PlayStation? See, there's weird things here that don't scream tech.
Pyre's not on Xbox?
Look it up for me. I'm almost positive it's not. The fact that it is only on PlayStation and then I think, PC and Mac is weird because no other Supergiant game is like that.
Yeah, it's on Steam and PlayStation.
It's not on Xbox. So again, the tech conversation, the tech argument, I don't buy because the PlayStation platform and the Xbox platform are almost identical where you could port that over too. So I don't know. I think there's something weird there. I think this is great for the Switch, especially for how much reading is going on. If I'm sitting here, and again, this game is like turn-based in the sense of you're just reading and moving and you can pause and whatnot. So I don't know. That's something that was peculiar to me. I was like, I have to play this on PlayStation. There's no other option here.
And Steam. I mean, it's on Steam.
Yeah. But again, there's certain games that I prefer to play handheld while watching something.
Well, and I mean, you do have to yeah, I mean, there is a certain like I get it type of thing because if you partner with somebody, that is a better move for you. Like it just is. Like it's like, oh, we want to launch on as many platforms as possible. What's better? Launching on as many platforms as possible and having like a good game, or launching on like one specific platform or two specific platforms and then literally being able to do whatever you want. Like if I'm thinking,
you also guarantee potentially making your money back too. I know with Xbox Game Pass, a good example of this is that games when they are put on their Xbox will, give you this check, just to get it on there, and that can typically recoup your development costs. So that's where exclusivity comes from. Developers would like to ensure that they can pay the bills and make the next game. And again, I'm shocked that more hasn't come out since 2017 if there was exclusivity here, because it looks like it, right? All other Supergiant games are on Xbox.
Yeah, well, I mean, it came out in 2020. He says, if it weren't extraordinarily difficult for our team, we probably would have already done it. So,
do you buy that?
I mean, are you a game developer?
I'm not, but I'm looking at historically, people don't sit there and go, "Oh, it's so hard to get it on Xbox." Switch. I'll give them that maybe with the Switch. I can't tell you that, but I do know that when it comes to Xbox and PlayStation, they're usually the technical gaps are pretty small when it comes to porting on those platforms.
Yeah.
Especially when you're talking about being on Mac OS and PC. I'm pretty sure the Windows and PC platform are going to be more aligned in the camp of PlayStation, Xbox. Switch, again, I know that's a little more unique. Regardless, this is a rabbit hole. I do think it's odd that it's only PlayStation, really, when it comes to consoles.
Yeah, and I mean, if I'm an indie developer, I'm going to be looking at who's the most popular as well, which pre-Switch, PS4, it makes a lot of sense. Post-Switch, it's like, Hades is the place we want to launch our game. Hades, like, Switch and Steam, let's do it. Like, that makes the most sense. So, I don't know. I think it could be a bit of both. I mean, they talk about how much work it was to make the game in general, and I don't know about porting. I just know porting is a pretty arduous process in general, even for simple games. So, I don't know. Well, time will tell. I wouldn't be surprised to see it on other platforms, but I don't know. Kind of interesting that it's only available on PlayStation and
it is
Steam, which makes sense why the other 2017. There you have it. Okay, let's move on. Let's get towards the end of this discussion. So we talked about the rights. We kind of talked about like the deep nature and deep lore of this game. I want to ask just kind of a general question: does it hit for you?
The actual
like the lore,
mythology,
like the atmosphere, like everything.
Yeah, it's cool. It's a bit maybe. Yes, it hits for me. The one critique I have, it's very heavy, right? There's a lot. It's very dense. That's the word I'm looking for. It's very, very dense. There's a lot of history between characters and
factions and
races. Yeah, that you kind of get the undertones of, never like completely said. And again, a lot of it you have to go digging for in some of the books and some of the dialogue. So that could be part of my fault. But yes, it completely hits. The world building is really good here. It's an interesting story. I would love to see, like you said, Gabe, if there's potential for more storytelling in this space, I'd love to see it. But yeah, it hits. What about you?
It's one of those things for me where it's super interesting, and I think it is really, really cool. But in terms of caring, I think that's kind of the more interesting question: is do we care about this world? No, not even a little bit. Biggest reason is there's a language barrier. I can't connect with these characters unless I read every scrap of dialogue, which to the average gamer is a no-no. But again, this game isn't made for the average gamer. So it is this question of how do we review this and like talk about this thing. I kind of agree with you in that I don't know that I would choose to play this game again. If Supergiant ever comes out with like a collection, I'm buying it. Like I'm supporting this developer through and through. Unless they do something that's just like crazy, be like, hey, like we worship, like, we're practicers of the dark arts and like we're want to harvest like baby souls or something. Like that would be
I'd question it. I wouldn't be fully out yet, but I'd question it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm a big Supergiant fan.
I just don't care that much.
Interesting. Yeah. And guess what, real quick, the fact that you chose gameplay mechanics over who deserved to be ascended kind of thing kind of tells you that too, right?
Yeah.
You didn't really care about this person's plight. You were like, no, you're a tool for me to win this competition.
Yeah, well, and even just the game gives you opportunities to like plea and kind of like talk to your team and stuff like that. So it's like my actions differ from what I'm actually telling the team. Like they would be supporting me, but it's like I'll send Bertrude to ascend versus somebody else that's probably more deserving, quote unquote. I just wanted to get rid of Bertrude because I didn't like playing as her. I wanted to get rid of Jodriel because I didn't like playing as her. I don't know. It's just this really weird thing of I wanted to win. Like I want to win, and you're almost punished in a way for like having that mentality, kind of. So yeah, it's just kind of interesting. But in terms of like objective, like ambition and just like scope of the project, it's a one of a kind world. It's a one of a kind anything, really. I mean, like I can't quite place my finger on what it reminds me of. It has a sense of familiarity in that it's a Supergiant game and they have a very specific take on stuff. But I've never experienced anything like this before. Yet it's not a game I want to spend a lot of time in. How do you quantify that?
You don't. Quantifying it, you don't, right?
You can't.
This is a game you have a nuanced conversation on if you want to recommend for people. And
I think that's a good question to kind of segue towards the end of this discussion is, can you recommend this game to people? Like, can you with confidence go to your coffee time every week with your buddies and say, dude, you got to play Pyre? Or is it like going to watch like the newest indie film and loving it, but you would never in a million years recommend it because you know it's not going to hit for people and people are going to be pissed at you that you recommended it to them?
Yeah, that one. It's the indie film. It's the art house film. It is the
passion project,
it's that
right?
Radiohead album that you just like and you can't explain why you like it, but it's Is it
the last Jedi of video games?
You're walking a fine line right now, my friend. Walking a very fine line.
I'm sorry. I shouldn't. I'm so.
You're gonna
sorry.
go down a rabbit hole. Regardless, I get what you're saying. Yes, it's the artistic storytelling. It's the I don't know. Like when I look at Supergiant's catalog of games too, this is probably when it comes to mainstream recommendations at the bottom of my list. But when it comes to if you're a Supergiant fan and you've played maybe 2 of their games, I'll be like, yeah, check out some gameplay. Do you like to read? You like to read? No, I'm not going to recommend it. But I think this is for the fans. I think this game is for the fans, and they knew that when they were making it. It's for themselves, and it's not for the mainstream.
Okay,
Again,
so now I have another hard question for you.
Let's hear it.
If this is for the fans, do you think this is the weakest game in the series?
Define weakest.
Execution.
No, execution not at all. This game is very well executed. When you say
content,
different. That's different now. Because execution, they executed what they wanted it to. They told their story.
Not execution, but content.
Maybe.
Content. I mean, take baseline story. We have Bastion and Transistor. Now we have Pyre, which is literally all nuance. If you're not paying attention, you don't even know what the hell is going on in this game.
Yeah.
And what's happening. It's like, what am I doing? Like, so, because it is just so ambiguous and so ambitious. So, for me, I put Transistor as the weakest in the series. So far. Based off of what I played at Hades. And I played 6-7 hours of Hades. I think for me right now, it probably stands as Transistor, Pyre, Bastion, Hades. I'm sorry, Hades, Bastion, so far.
Bastion on top. You haven't beat Hades yet. Either.
Haven't beat it yet.
And there's some biases there too. We can go into those. But I think this is an example of, I think you can compare Bastion, you can compare Hades, and you can compare Transistor. I don't think you can put Pyre in that mix as far as comparison, as far as one's better than the other. I said earlier that I would recommend this probably last for a general player, but when it comes to actual gameplay and comparing because like when you think about those 3, other than Pyre, throw that out, those gameplay mechanics are very similar when you break it down. Other than Transistor's kind of freeze mechanic, the hack and slash dodge roll thing is all there on all of those for the most part. So comparing those against Pyre is odd. Pyre is Oregon Trail meets NBA Jam meets Quidditch. It's just its own thing. And I don't think there's no game, like one thing we do in Busch League Gaming is we try to go, if you liked this, you might like this. I cannot do that with Pyre. There's nothing that I can pull from. Though I said Oregon Trail and Quidditch is in game. Oregon Trail's, you know what Oregon Trail is. I can't say because you like this game, you're going to like Pyre. There's nothing like Pyre. So it's hard to compare it to anything.
It reminds me, okay, there was a little game that came out. It was called The Order 1886, okay? Made by Ready at Dawn. It was a PS4 game and beloved by many people. A little too short, but it was gorgeous. It was awesome. And they never made a sequel to it, right? You were like essentially like a Van Helsing of sorts, kind of like taking down these urban legends and stuff. Well, they went to go on to make VR games and like do different things. And that almost kind of reminds me of this, in that whenever Pyre was being released and like being advertised, I saw the gameplay for it. I'm like, this doesn't look at all like a Supergiant game to me from what I've experienced.
No.
And what you're saying kind of rings true in that how can you compare these? Because the precedent has been set 2 games before. People are mostly going to know Supergiant for Hades. I think that's the largest audience that they've ever had, is for Hades. So as a Supergiant fan, put yourself in a Supergiant fan coming into Hades, which basically that's what you are. Can you recommend this game to other Supergiant fans that have just shown up for Hades? I don't think you can, which
Not
is
really.
in a way kind of cool, but also in a way, and say that the game is bad is wrong. And to say, you know, the developer is uber talented. That's what's so weird about this conversation, is that there's literally no way to put like any sort of grade on this because it is so unique and one of a kind. I mean, would you agree with that statement?
100%. Like I said, the execution and vision are there. They did it. And I can't say this game is bad. It's just for an audience that maybe isn't us. I think it's a very small sliver because, again, this is a unique game. But there's certain genres of games that I don't comment on too much because it's not my thing. And I felt like as I was playing this, I was like, I don't know whose thing this is, but this is someone's thing.
Yeah.
Someone's going to love this game.
Totally.
But for me, it's very low on the list of just straight up recommendations to a general audience. It's the recommendation of, did you like Bastion? Did you like Transistor? Did you like Hades? Then give this a shot. But when it comes to
like, did you like the unique nature of those games, or like the world
art
building,
style,
the art style and music and world building? Did you like the artistic side of those games outside of the gameplay? Then you might give Pyre a try, because that's what it excels in, is world building. I mean, it's an RPG. Like, that's literally what it is. Well, by definition, it's like what did I say it was? What did I read it was? Hold on. I'm going back.
Yeah, I wouldn't call it an RPG, I don't think.
It is, though. It's classified as that. Pyre.
Yeah, but that's like when everything's considered an RPG in 2021. Like, every game has RPG mechanics. Because you, like, get items, and I guess you level up, I guess you could call it an RPG. Sure. But
yeah, I mean, RPG is a party-based RPG. That's literally what it's defined as on Steam. Pyre is a party-based RPG from the creators of Bastion and Transistor.
All right.
I mean, that's what it's classified as. I want to read some. Okay, let's do this. Let's start to kind of wrap this thing up. You kind of said you can recommend it to certain people. You can't recommend it to other people. Do we want to put a score on this? I know.
No.
Okay, and why?
No. First of which, Busch League Gaming, as of the release of this episode, we're not putting scores on games anymore. Due to things like this, due to games like this, due to the nuance. In summary, the big thing that we are trying to get away from is lazy consumership. Like, we don't want our listeners just to cut straight to a score and have an opinion based off a number without listening or reading our words. So, for this game, prime example, how do you put a number on this? How do you grade it against anything else in the industry? I can't. This is a prime example of why we don't score games anymore, because I don't even have an idea of what this would be. So, no, I don't put it on it. And then, like I said, my recommendation is very, nuanced with who I would recommend this to. It's a very small list of people, but it's a good game. It's a great game. It's a game worth experiencing, but kind of in your own time, and you kind of have to be in the right place to play this type of game.
This is one of those examples for me where it's like years ago I told people video games are literally turning into the new books. And people laughed at me when I said that.
Look who's laughing now.
Yeah, basically, because of that very reason. If you're an avid reader, you're going to have books you can recommend to your friends or your acquaintances or whatever based off of their particular interests. The world has become so nuanced that now video games are getting to that point. If you meet a really eclectic person and really eccentric person, and they seem like they, that seems like the type of person that would benefit from playing a game like this, is having that distinct personality. I would never recommend this to someone who just plays Madden and COD every year. That's all they play. Absolutely not. Never.
The person I recommend this to probably owns cats.
I do. I own 5 cats, so there you have it.
Five cats?
5 of them, and 2 midget cats, munchkin cats.
Are they indoors? Are they all indoor cats?
Oh yeah, dude. We're cat people.
That's a lot of cats.
My wife does a good job. That's all I'm saying.
Anyways, you're proving a point. This is a cat person game.
This is no. This is a artistic person game. This is someone, if you write, if you draw, if you play music, if you do anything, and that's Supergiant's MO. If you're artistic in any way, you should probably try it out. Even if you don't finish it, it's a one-of-a-kind feel. And out of respect for my guest, I am not going to put a number on this game. Because I can't. I don't know how to judge this game. I enjoyed...
You have one in mind?
I mean, I do. I do. Like if you put a gun to my head, make me put a number on this game, I'm gonna give it an 8.
What did you give? Oh yeah, because you like this more than Transistor.
I gave Transistor, Bastion, and Pyre now all 8s.
Wow.
And that's trying to be objective, and it's one of those things though. Is like if I was a game developer, I would never make this game ever.
No.
Like, this is a one-of-a-kind, like, you're looking into the mind's eye of that team, and you're seeing what they wanted to make. This is it.
Yeah.
Like, it's impressive. It is. It's objectively impressive that they were able to pull something like this off. And then looking at all, like, the tiny little details and possibilities and things, like being able to find specific people and not being able to find certain people, it's crazy. It is genuinely crazy. So if you put a gun to my head and you're like, what is Pyre on a scale of 1 to 10? It's an 8. I think that's like a good answer. And if someone tried to tell me it was a 10 out of 10, I'd be like, you're an idiot. It's not.
It might be for someone. I was just thinking while you were talking that this could be one of those games that in 10 years that developers like, hey, this is the game that I played and it inspired me to get into game development. Like that's how I see this type of game.
But is it genre defining? Are we going to see more games like this? Have we seen more games like this?
No. So genre defining in the sense of it will inspire people, though. I really do think, right?
Well, I think it has that potential too. But I look at a game like Death Stranding, which I think is genre defining, and I think people will try and pull that off. And would I give that a 10 out of 10? No. Yeah. Absolutely not. So it turns into a super interesting conversation. That's why I admire you not wanting to put a score on it, because it's so different.
What's a 10 out of 10, man?
What does that even mean? What should a 10 out of 10 be? And I think there's no way to objectively give something at a 10 out of 10 without being wrong. Without throwing your own opinion in there, because
it's all opinion based.
It is all opinion based. Do you think Arkham? I mean, that's a whole other conversation.
What are we gonna ask? Arkham? We're gonna ask an Arkham question. Is that your
Arkham City? Is Arkham City a 10 out of 10? The answer is no. It's not.
I don't think so. I loved it. I loved it. I'd recommend it to someone. But I couldn't even tell you what I put a score on it.
There's a handful of games ever. I think genuinely the only game I've ever played that's a 10 out of 10 is probably God of War 2018.
Wow. That only game.
Probably. Well, probably that. Okay, I have 3 for you. God of War, 2018, Metroid Prime as a 10 out of 10, and probably Super Mario Odyssey.
Interesting. There's a lot to unpack there.
There is a lot.
There's a lot to unpack of what's missing, actually. But that's for another episode.
Yeah, different time. Before we close out the show, I am introducing a new segment into Game Club. I'm going to find my favorite Steam review, and we're going to read that on the show. So, Sarmacid. This is what he said with 19.1 hours on record. Says this game has amazing world building and does a great job of showcasing world, characters, and lore in a way that's digestible by the player and not overwhelming despite all the complexities in all those aspects. The story is pretty unique and forces the player to make hard choices that have impact. The only downside is that there's a lot of dialogue, which is not voice acted, in between instances of gameplay. If you're used to visual novels, then you'll likely be comfortable with it. But even if you aren't, the character development that happens is worth going through them. I think that's very well said, and probably one of the best, concise things I've read about this game, period, because it is so ambiguous.
We should have just read that at the beginning and then
ended the episode. Yeah, instead of having an hour and 40-minute episode.
Is this an hour and 40 minutes?
Well, I mean, we did have some technical difficulties and all that stuff, but yeah, we've been recording for an hour.
Only we could talk about Pyre for this long.
Yeah. Let me go. The Wannabe and the Busch League. So.
Love it.
Well, Jacob Busch, out of respect for your new review process, I'm not going to ask you to put a score on this game, but I do have to ask, what are your final thoughts?
I am glad I played this. This solidified my love for Supergiant. They're an extremely talented team. And again, my recommendation is nuanced. And if you like Supergiant games, you might like this. I can't even say you will like this. You might like this. But there's a story
If you like Supergiant games, there are going to be aspects of this game that you love.
Yep.
But there are going to be aspects that you may not love.
It's just a question mark. It comes down to other genres that Supergiant hasn't tapped into. So glad I played it. Love Supergiant.
Well said. Well said.
Gabe, you? Closing thoughts?
I will never recommend this game to anybody.
Interesting. An 8? You wouldn't recommend an 8 to anybody?
That's a personal 8. I mean, it is literally, I can only knock it. The art design's amazing, the music's amazing, the gameplay is really good and challenging. It's scaled based on how hard you want it to be. It's unique. It's fun. It drags on a bit, and there are redundant aspects, but that's my personal take on video games. But I'm not gonna go recommend this to just anybody. There's like a 1 percentile of people I know that I would probably recommend this to. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, no, I mean the majority. Outside of this review, probably won't ever talk about it again unless Supergiant comes up.
That's fair. I might reference back to it if anything ever comes up like this. But again, we're talking about 2017. We're not seeing anything like this. So
No. Well, that was fun, though. That was a good combo. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed that review. I love reviewing games, and I love reviewing Supergiant games, especially with ye old Jacob Busch. So that was fun. We need to have some more one-on-ones.
Love it. More to come, for sure.
More to come, for sure. So
Hades.
Well, Hades is the final one. I'm kind of sad. that that ends our Supergiant journey. But all good things must come to an end, and obviously there will be plenty of opportunities to collaborate in the future. So, before we go though, definitely pimp your stuff. Let people know where they can find you. Where can people find you?
YouTube.com/Busch League Gaming, BuschLeagueGaming.com. Those 2 places. Those are the main places. Anywhere on podcast platforms, we're there. Just check us out. Busch with a C, B-U-S-C-H.
And I am going to get in trouble from one Jacob Busch by saying that I have an open invitation to be writing some things over there at some point in the future if something isn't published yet by the time this comes out. So be on the lookout.
Something has to be published by the time this comes out. That's the ultimatum right here.
That is the ultimatum. So you have it.
If you were listening to this episode, probably Gabe's first post is going live alongside this.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen, from the horse's mouth, right there. Busch League
You're on the
Gaming.
clock, Gabe. You're on the clock.
I am on the clock. I do well on the clock. But no, we We obviously, here at Punch Counter Punch, obviously members here, me and Ethan, we love Busch League Gaming. We definitely endorse all the things that they do in our minds. We love them, and we want them to succeed and continue doing what they want to do. So definitely go check them out. And thank you for showing up to Game Club. Definitely check out our other Supergiant episodes, our Halo episodes. Trying to have stuff coming out all the time very soon. If it's not already out now, me and Ryan Dalton are going to have our Alan Wake and Control episodes out. So looking forward to having those out. And there's always more stuff down the pipeline. So definitely, as Ethan would say, watch this space because there's more to come. So. Jacob, thank you so much for joining me, and say goodbye.
Bye.
Well, once again, thank you so much for showing up today. I really, really appreciate it. Again, if this is your first time here, consider subscribing. I know that's the thing that all the YouTubers do. Everyone's asking to sub. The fact of the matter is that it doesn't cost you anything to subscribe, and who knows, you might even see a video every now and then that you actually like or may be interested in. Not only that, I do a bunch of stuff, so make sure you check all the information down in the description down below. We got podcasts, we got Let's Plays, we got all kinds of stuff for all kinds of fandoms. So make sure you check that out. I would seriously appreciate it, and I would love to see you around here more. I am Gabe Real Fast. I will always be the Wannabe Critic.